Good morning, one and all, and this is from the Fringes, the opinions voiced on this show. They are our own opinions. Okay, are you there, Mike? Not there. Okay, so we're talking today about the impossible Kiwi dream of obtaining a house. We're also talking about police defence, mobile bases. I believe in community constables myself. That really should be the focus in our community. And also the UN immigration policy. Winston Peters calls Global Compact referenda affecting our sovereignty. So our sovereignty could be at stake. The rates review people are trying to do something definitely about this. Okay, so today we're talking about making a submission before the Beehive to seek an independent complaints authority with wide-ranging power against oranga tamariki. The police and banks have one. They have a complaints independent complaints authority, but the oranga tamariki do not have that. And so, of course, with fathers and mothers who've had children unjustly taken, children being abused by the system, this would be an accountability structure which would keep them honest in all their dealings. Now, the statistics are showing that one child killed every 5 weeks, one in 1,000 between 12 and 15 committing suicide, and also the murder of Grace reveals violence and the need for zero tolerance towards violence, and of course the need for parental support courses to be actually put in place, and that is very important. And I'd like to just read the actual petition, what it states here, that the House of Representatives note that 305 people have signed an online petition requesting that the House commission an independent investigation into the practices and complaints made about child, youth and family. SIF's Lower Hutt office established an independent complaints authority with wide-ranging investigative powers to deal with complaints. Okay, so the Commission and Independent Investigation established an Independent Complaints Authority and Commission. Yeah, so this is very important that we hold oranga tamariki accountable for the uplift of all the children involved, and it's something that we all need to work on. Locally, Mrs. Stevens said that there was no duty of care shown by the DHB in Hamilton's Henry Bennett ward. The coroner confirmed that Nicky Stevens, his death was avoidable. So I did find it interesting when you're talking about mental health services in place for people who are at risk to suicide. I went to a therapy session yesterday which talked about the healing voices. Services need to change radically, and we need to invest in prevention by taking measures to reduce abuse, deprivation and inequality. So they talked about finding meaning in the voices and differentiating between the positive voices and the negative voices that we hear. Psychological therapies are helpful for many people. However, most people are currently unable to. Okay, that's called We Are the Revolution. Okay, you there, Mike?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you're making a submission to the Beehive to seek an independent complaints authority. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's correct. So in 2016, I put forward a petition through Change, got 395 signatures basically asking to commission an independent investigation into practices and complaints made about child, youth and family, which is obviously now Oranga Tamariki's offices.
Yep.
To establish an independent complaints authority with wide-ranging investigative powers to deal with complaints against SIFS or any subsequent organisation.
Yep.
And to commission an independent government inquiry into the cases where persecution strategies by SIFS or OT social workers have been alleged, and recommendations and implement findings into the shape of a future SIFS-type organisation.
How would this apply to fathers and mothers who have had their children unjustly taken and children being abused by the system? This would give an accountability structure in place, wouldn't it?
That's correct. So what we're looking for ideally is an independent body to investigate. The reason we're looking for that is, at the moment, they argue that they have the Chief Advisory Panel. Now, that is not independent, and we can see that's not independent when 1 in 3 SIFS investigations are actually upheld, the complaints are actually upheld.
Yes.
Yet only one person has ever won.
Why is it that the banks have one, the banks have an accountability structure, the police have one, but our Oranga Tamariki seems to be getting away with all the wrong things they're doing?
That's correct. So your banks, your insurance companies, a lot of other government departments also have independent complaints processes.
Yeah.
And people that are third parties that do investigate. However, arguably, Oranga Tamariki have the most power in that they have the power to remove children from parents.
Yes.
And have no independent oversight. So effectively, you can say, hey, you guys have made a mistake, and when it's the same people investigating, they just say, no, we haven't. I raised that with several MPs sort of later in the year last year. This year, around sort of June, July. It made it into Parliament's question times at the time in regards to actually complaints are being made, and the people that are raising complaints, especially with MPs, and at the time Anne Tolley, and what's happening is she's going in, or as an example, being the Minister for Social Development, goes and says, hey, what's going on in this case?
Yeah.
And following the chain of custody of emails, etc., it's the same people investigating themselves.
I mean, when we look at the statistics, you've got 1 child killed every 5 weeks. You've got 1 in 1,000 between the ages of 12 and 15 committing suicide. Then you've got all the violence that's going on in our community. They're talking about a zero tolerance towards all violence. And they're talking about the need for parental support courses, but they're doing nothing about the family in the beehive, protecting the biological family, mums and dads.
Well, that's the biggest problem we've got, is it's all talk. There has been no action.
Yeah, it's all talk.
That's right, and protecting these kids is obviously the main priority. And dealing with cases of wrongful parental alienation where in situations where such SIFS have removed children unlawfully or without grounds, so they fabricated grounds. I've actually had quite a considerable amount of evidence come across my desk where SIFS have fabricated grounds.
Yeah.
And that has led to litigation in which SIFS have lost. I've dealt with several cases now where a judge has absolutely slammed SIFS in family court rulings and said what they've done is not okay. There's legitimate grievances here.
Right.
But again, the family court deals with the evidence they're given, and when they ask SIFS for their Section 132 report, which is the report that SIFS provide on a home environment and the suitability of parents to care for their children.
Yeah.
The judge looks at that without question because it comes from, arguably an independent party. But the problem you've got is when the information in that report is wrong, where do you go, who do you talk to, and how do you argue it's wrong?
So it's almost as if they want a license to uplift children because they're trying to destroy the biological family. And Ministry for Families, Families for Justice, we want to raise up social justice reporters, kaitiaki protectors as freedom fighters, helping people going through family court processes, traumatised. There's mothers and fathers who are traumatised from the system. We're desperate to see changes within Oranga Tamariki. What sort of changes would you bring in?
Well, what we're fighting for is basically an independent body.
Yep.
So someone completely separate, generally not from a background of social work.
Yep.
to be able to investigate complaints, but also to have wide-ranging powers. So if you've got, say, a social worker that's deliberately fabricated evidence,
fabricating evidence, yeah.
If I put it in the context of the banking industry, right? In the
yes,
you get charged an unfair fee.
Yep.
Right? And you say to the bank, hang on a minute, this fee is not reasonable. The bank say, well, go and jump. So you say, well, I'm not going to do that, but what I will do is I'll go to the Ombudsman and file a complaint. And the banking Ombudsman goes back to the bank and says, well, actually this isn't legal and you guys have made a mistake. Now, the bank aren't going to tell the Ombudsman to go jump because the Ombudsman will shut down their banking. Obviously not over one era, but if it's a multiple reoccurring thing, then they're going to step in. And what we're looking for is someone with the power that can step in, that can issue and put these people on notice that actually illegal and antisocial behaviour is not acceptable, and neither is dishonesty. I mean, social workers need to be held to account, and we can't rely on the SWRB or the Social Workers Registration Board, for those that don't know, because essentially their background is social work, and they, when it comes to oranga tamariki, effectively say, we're not going to investigate because they can investigate themselves. Well,
you know, there's so much violence going on within the system, and I just want to acknowledge Gracie's passing and our prayers with the family in this tragedy. But I had a dream of a heart with a sword going through it, and there's a lot of father and mother deficits that go on in people's lives and so forth. But unless we deal with root causes to why people are alienated from their families, we're never going to restore the family, are we? Fathers and mothers are being deprived of access to their own children.
That's correct. And what we're seeing now, and more so in the last 2 years, is the issues are now being talked about. People are going, I don't care about suppression.
Yep.
I know how to get around suppression. I'm going to talk about my case. The great thing about social media is bringing more and more people together to talk about their cases and realising, hey, I'm not the only one here. I mean, since as far back as I can remember, dads have had a bad rap in the family court because of the age-old, adage that children belong with mothers. Well,
that is a fallacy, and to blame all men as being paedophiles, or all men being violent, and all men being murderers, that is totally wrong. That is total discrimination against males. I mean, we've put together black ribbons, show you care for men. Men are discriminated against in family disputes. Men receive no compensation for abuses suffered. Men commit suicide at 4 times the rate of males. There's obviously father alienation from families, isn't there?
That's correct. There's significant issues with it, and the biggest one we face on a daily basis, in my opinion, is false allegations. False
allegations,
and more so than that is incorrect information. I think 9 times out of 10, if you're in the family court and the social services get involved, if you're a male, chances are any chance you may have had at custody is diminishing. And the reason I say that is, with what happens, generally you're ending up dealing with a lot of people that think differently to you, that act differently to you. They put their own personal spin on it. I've had cases come across my table here where the sus have actually lied, made out a father had mental health issues.
They've lied,
because he alleged the mother was on drugs. Yet later, it all came crashing down when the father actually gained evidence that, yes, the mother was on drugs. Now, that evidence came from SIF's own file, so they knew the mother was on drugs. Yet still implemented a strategy to say the father's got mental health issues for saying so, and there's no evidence to support that the mother was on drugs. Now, that could be potentially understandable if, right, and granted if, that evidence hadn't come to light before they wrote the report. However, that report was written less than a month after they received that positive drug test. Now, how can that be acceptable?
Okay, stay right there. We're going to play a song back after the song. Okay, so today I'm talking to Mike Mike Clifford, who's put together a petition to the House of Representatives. It says here, and 357 others below have signed this. Establish an independent complaints authority with wide-ranging investigative powers to deal with complaints against SIFs. So, Mike, can we hold them accountable?
Well, I'm certainly hoping so, and that's my end goal. I've got many years left to keep fighting this, and I'll fight it as long as I need to. Because the bottom line is, people are dying.
Yeah.
And as taxpayers, we're paying for that.
That's right. And we pay dearly in fathers and mothers committing suicide, and 1 in 1,000 children between the ages of 12 and 15 committing suicide. This is a terrible indictment on SIFs and Orangi Tamariki, and who's going to hold them accountable? They just get away with uplifting children all the time, and the court cases are an ass sometimes because the judge wants them to be accountable. But we seem to have a bureaucracy, a money-making machine with lawyers and so forth who don't give a damn about the real biological family.
Yeah,
what do you say to that? Yep.
I'd agree with a fair bit of what you're saying there. There are lawyers and bad lawyers, but I have found going into the family court, there's certainly a lot that more want to entangle people and, basically milk it for as much money as they can, as opposed to go in there, say what needs to be said, and finish a case. A custody case should never take 4 to 5 years or longer.
No, because we find with Families for Justice that we're able to put legal services in place, teaching mothers and fathers how to put affidavits together and self-represent, as well as offering trauma counselling. It seems to me that the social workers and the bureaucracy of lawyers and SIFs and so forth, they're not doing their job properly, are they? Are they keeping people alive? Are they defending mothers and fathers who can't have access to their own children? Are they sorting out the problem so the ones that need to be separated, like unsafe conditions within the family, say 3%, we deal with those, but we're penalising a lot of just fathers and mothers.
Absolutely, and as a taxpayer, we're also paying for that service. So if we're going to fund a service out of our hard-earned money, it needs to be functional and it needs to work. And it doesn't. At the moment, it's an absolute shambles. You've got...
It is in a shambles.
Kids being removed unlawfully.
Yep.
You've got no independent oversight. You've got social workers that investigate themselves.
Yes.
Social workers that blatantly lie to the court. Now, the hard thing is there's not a lot of precedent around this in New Zealand law. Not a lot of it's actually been dealt with previously, which means when you bring a new case, you need to bring a really, really strong case.
Yep.
Otherwise, they kind of just look at it and go, well, we're not really interested.
Yeah.
Now, there's no statistics as such held on file on how many settlements Oranga Tamariki make that are available to the public.
Yeah.
Because most of those, what they do is they sit you down in a room and they do what's called a closed settlement. So you can't, and then that's the end of it. There's no...
Now, you've got here, thirdly, commission an independent government inquiry into the cases where persecution strategies by SIFs, social workers, have been alleged, and recommendations and implement findings in the shape of future SIFs-type organisation. So we need to hold them accountable, and we need to seek changes in specific areas like legal services available, better representation. We need to stop the suicide that is happening, so we need to have support wraparound services for mothers and fathers that are attempting suicide. Yeah, so it's almost as if we need to outline specifically what they should be doing, Cliff.
Absolutely, and that's certainly another thing that needs to come into play. Are you familiar with the Rebo report?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we've had all these inquiries with Little and the Labour Party and everything, and they're saying to us, yes, but they're doing nothing about the biological family, nothing about shared parenting and family mediation, and dealing with the root causes to the problem as to why we're having family alienation and all mothers and fathers can't get access to their own children.
Yeah.
Why isn't the government dealing to this?
Well,
Is it a money-making machine? You know what I mean?
I'd say absolutely, to a point it is. I think the biggest thing is you've got a lot of information, put forward in court where people, and I think, well, personally, I think one of the biggest problems they've got is having removed the lawyers from the family court.
Yes.
Except and without notice applications. Now, at the time they did that in 2014, I said, look, I think that's a really bad idea. Because what you've ended up happening is the number of false allegations, the number of people that are fudging their affidavits, not being truthful, because they're terrified of walking into court without a lawyer if the other party's got a lawyer. So what they're doing, and we can already see that in the stats, the number of without notice applications has gone through the roof.
Right, now Mike, we've got 2 minutes to go. What can we get people, mothers and fathers that have been disaffected, what do you want them to do?
Well, ideally, if they can put forward a written submission.
Yes, a written submission to the government. Where do they send that?
So that can be sent to the socialservices.community.
Yes, socialservices.community.
At parliament.govt.
.nz.
And if they do a written submission, they've got to be done before, I believe, the 12th of February next year. Okay. And
they also can become freedom fighters, and they can also learn to self-litigate, like through self-representation in court, and they can become part of Families for Justice. We need to create a movement right around the country.
Absolutely, and the more people that are talking about it, I believe the government sort of grease the wheel that squeaks, in a sense.
And we need to rise up now because they're trying to take our sovereignty away. Through the UN immigration policy, Winston Peters calls for a global compact referenda affecting our sovereignty. Once our sovereignty is gone, once the family is destroyed, what's left?
Well, that's right. And we've already got some of the worst domestic violence rates in the world. The worst domestic
violence. And I don't get it. Why don't they reconcile mothers and fathers and have trauma recovery processes put in place? You know what I mean? Why don't they support the real family in New Zealand? That's my bone of contention.
Well, that's the big thing, isn't it? And I think the other side of that is if you feel something's unjust, say something. You don't have to suffer in silence.
Right.
There's a lot of people that are going through the same thing as you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for coming on the radio. Let's be agents of law change, and let's get a movement going for Families for Justice, and let's sign this petition. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, good job.